Hey, RetconRaider here. With special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible. Including, but not limited to, Revenant, Alois, Anerdinwarpaint, Dragon Matrix 7, Eerie V23, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, Kazorm, Lima, Nathan Welch Jr., Tomasz, Piątkowski, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, let's get started. And welcome back to Werewolf the Apocalypse, Heart of the Forest. As we settle in for day 2. Day 1 was interesting. A bit slow, but we made some new acquaintances. We got to know the town, which I've already forgotten the name of. And we found out a bit about our strange, estranged family. We also had another very strange dream, which I imagine has something to do with the name of this new chapter we're getting into. So, let's see what this new day has for us. Chapter 2. Logging. The day after. The next morning was full of sunshine and birdsong. I could smell the heat of the afternoon building. Those long, honey-like hours in late June when the earth isn't tired of its own warmth yet. But it was crisp and pleasant now. I got up. I sat on my bed for a moment, letting my feet dangle from it. I felt angry. The weight of the previous day had coiled up somewhere in my chest, and it felt like a tiny merry-go-round, gaining speed. And there was the dream. Then I remembered the dream, the clearing, the animals in the night sky, waiting for me. I took a shower, ate something without really paying attention, and went out. Anya joined me. Summer morning. We were halfway through the forest when I realized we were walking toward the logging site. Oh, no, we can't choose. We have to go to the forest. I have to imagine this is different than what would have happened if we had gone to the forest yesterday. Against the machines. I was so focused on my anger and the turmoil in my head that I didn't really care where I was going. When I snapped out of it, the sun was shining, the village was far behind me, and I wasn't sure how I'd gotten there. Anya looked around. So, what's the plan? Alright, we need to lower our rage. It is playing into this a bit too much for my liking. And we need to stay on task. We're here to learn about our family. Yeah, that's still our primary goal, so that's the only way we regain willpower. So we really should stay focused on that right now. This whole logging thing is just a means to an end for us at the moment. Right, because Lisa specifically said she would tell us more when we found her here. Sorry, I took like an hour break before getting back into this, but it's all coming back to me. I need to figure out how my family fitted into all this. I looked around. On my right was the ancient forest. On my left was the freshly torn clearing. Ahead of me, ruining the view, were huge logging machines, and a group of people arguing in their shadow. It was clear they needed an outside voice to settle the dispute. Do they? I feel like getting in the middle of this is the worst thing to do, but let's get a look at the key players here. There were people there, too. The loggers were sitting idly on the tree trunks, sharing cigarettes. The police that stood between them and a colorful group of protesters were visibly uneasy and twitchy. I saw some reporters who were clearly bored, because no one was doing anything interesting. The harvesters loomed over the clearing, reeking. I saw a familiar face among the protesters. Kim was standing next to a vaguely military-looking white man who was arguing with Olga from the cemetery. The protesters were clearly conflicted. I wanted to know what this was all about. Inspiring. Curious about the reason for it all, I approached the protesters. One of the police officers, young and nervous, said something I didn't fully understand. Yeah, we'll let Anya take care of that. Anya flashed her best smile and flooded him with Norwegian. He smiled back. "Oh," he said, "you're one of them," and then let us go. Then I noticed that someone joined us. Someone had used the commotion to sneak with us past the police. A girl with disheveled, bleached-out hair. "Don't worry," she patted the officer on the arm. It was an awful pickup line anyway. He recoiled. You shouldn't touch me, ma'am." I smiled. Pat. I smiled at her and wanted to say something, but I was interrupted. "Pat," some guy called her from the gathering. "Could you come here? I need you to show Olga that chart." She sighed, reaching to her backpack and taking out a tablet. "And they're at it again," she murmured under her breath, and winked at me. "Coming." We went toward the activists. As I walked towards Kim, I heard more and more of the argument. "Olga, you can't." The man was speaking with a strong German accent, except I can't do that, so it was American. Pat stood next to him with her tablet. She looked a bit amused. "Do not fucking tell me what I can or can't do, Cornell," Olga interrupted. "I can because they are destroying our mother. I can fight with all the means at my disposal, even if it means burning those harvesters to the ground." A slender, green-eyed man was standing next to her. He took a few steps back, went towards one of the harvesters, turned his back on us all, and pissed on the machine. Olga smirked. "Ah, Daniel, you know how to bring the point home." He looked at her, confused. Classy. Cornell raised his eyebrows. "Burn the harvesters?" Cornell asked calmly. "In this drought? Olga, are you out of your mind?" "You know what I mean. We fight them any way we can. Because this is a fucking war," she spat. He sighed. "You've never seen real war and it shows. Nobody is shooting at us, and believe me, we want it to stay that way. We need a peaceful protest." I approached Kim. "Hey, can we, talk?" I asked, approaching Kim. "Oh, Maya, darling, it's good to see you," they smiled. "Maybe you'll be able to convince her." Oh, so I was to take a stand. I looked at them. Well, this is awkward. I looked at them both. Olga with her fury and passion, Cornell with his cool, professional demeanor, and shared without any reservations what I felt about the situation. Well, we are pretty angry right now. You know what? This feels fair. It's not a war, not yet. My voice rang clear in the silence. But they won't stop unless we make them. I really didn't need that second part. Kim shook their head and moved forward. I observed them curiously. "Olga, darling, you know I love you, but Cornell really knows what he's doing. Please, trust me on that one." They looked at her apologetically. "Fuck off, Kim. You didn't even trust me enough to come here on your own when I asked you to." Lisa decided to say something. Lisa looked them straight in the eye. She had a peculiar accent. Kim, you want to teach me about violence? She looked him straight in the eye. About fighting oppression? Just because your boss went to what? One mission in Afghanistan? Her Polish was peculiar, kind of mellow. Cornell winced. Lisa, leave Kim alone. He didn't know what to say, and it seemed that the whole discussion would be derailed. Oh, I thought Lisa was backing up Kim, but she's actually backing up Olga. That's interesting. Hey guys, the forest, I said. The logging, the protest? Olga unclenched her fist. Cornell looked back at her and chuckled softly. You almost punched me. The conversation was over, at least for the time being. Cornell, together with his cronies, walked toward the reporters, while Olga went back to the group of people standing in the shadow of an old oak tree. A lot to unpack there. Some new names, too. Pat and, Daniel. I looked at the pushcha. The clearing full of felled trees was like a gaping, bleeding wound in the chest of a friend. I had to do something. That is definitely the source of our dream. I looked at my friend. We have to stop this logging. Yes, just like Olga said, Anya nodded, excited. Oh, right, Anya's with us. What they are doing is unforgivable, and we have to fight. And we can now regain willpower by helping the protesters. Noted. So I think we are starting to see like a pack dynamic here. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure who's in charge. People are picking sides between Cornell and Olga and falling in line behind them, but they both seem to be at a standstill, neither one of them showing obvious authority over the other. I looked at the two groups. The logging site. The harvesters were dripping with black oil, and the forest stood tall, serene, and full of golden light. It looked like it could protect itself. And then I looked at the felled trees, dead, limp, helpless. And we have to pick sides. Olga and escalation, or Cornell and answers. And when you put it that way, you know, it's a pretty easy choice to make, I think. At least for me. I will err on the side of answers, please. In the limelight. As I approached the group, Kim waved at me. Come here. They took me straight to the leader of their group, the man who was arguing with Olga. Hello, Maya, he said. I see you haven't come alone. He reached out his hand. Yeah, we need to drop our rage as soon as we can. His handshake was firm and strong. His eyes were an uncanny shade of gray. He might have been in his early 30s, I thought. Damn, he looked tough. Damn, you look like a tough guy, I blurted out, impressed. He was in that bad boy hipster military way. I know, he said without skipping a beat. Cornell looked me in the eyes. I know why you came to the Białowieza. The forest is reaching out to you because for a long time your ancestors were its servants, and now you're the only one left to pay what they owed. He seemed to believe it. Hey, so that maxes out our willpower. Will that get our rage back under control? I looked at him, skeptical, but he seemed to believe it. The important question is, he looked at me intensely, do you want to help? That is a very strange way to put it, but yes? I had no time to answer. Before I could answer, I heard a commotion and turned around. The reporters were coming our way, but their cameras were switched off and pointed at the ground. Why aren't they filming? That doesn't sound like reporters. Funny, I thought. They should be taking photos or filming the protest, but I couldn't remember if they were when I arrived at the site. So, asked Cornell. There was a hint of impatience in his voice. The reporter shook his head and grimaced. Sorry, everyone. We can't do anything. We're not allowed to cover what's going on here. Really? That's... Okay. It hit me. The police weren't there to protect the protesters or the press. Yeah, it must be hard to do your job when the police is watching your every step, I said. And they nodded. There was a moment of tense silence. And then, it all came together. Suddenly I understood the dream. That was the moment I was destined to intervene. Okay, if you say so. Man, what are we suited for here? Inspiration is obvious, but what would these other two choices line up with? I'm guessing using the reporters would be cunning. So would analytical be making them understand? We'll give it a shot. A matter of principle. No way, I said, shaking my head. No fucking way. I couldn't quite place the look on Cornell's face. He seemed interested in me, like I was a new toy. Well, this is the reality here, he said finally. The media will cover anything that is violent, then present us all as eco-terrorists who should be locked up in prison. So we just needed to prove that we weren't that, I guess. Somehow. I looked at the reporters. They were a bored bunch from competing media outlets thrown together by circumstance. I needed to convince them that we weren't the villains. I laid down the arguments. Hey. The loggers came here to kill the forest, I said, and for a moment I was surprised by how clear my voice was. They don't respect the land. They came here to destroy, and we came here to protect. It's a story as old as time. Good versus evil. Cover it, and people will watch. It had an effect, just not the one I'd hoped for. And that was exactly the New Age bullshit I was hoping for. I turned and saw a journalist lowering their camera. There was a sticker on it with the logo of a national TV station. Now let's throw in a few shots of that freak, he pointed to Kim. Why are deviants destroying the traditional way of life of the Polish countryside? The reporter started saying into his microphone. Ooh, well this is less than ideal. I mean, as satisfying as smashing his camera might be, that is clearly exactly what he is trying to get us to do. What's up with you? I asked the other reporters. Have you lost your spark? Have you forgotten why you do this job? I held my breath. But they just ignored me and turned their attention to Olga's group, who chose that moment to violently clash with the cops. I felt someone touching my arm. This is the moment when you exit the scene. Kim turned me around and gently but firmly pushed me away. We'll be in touch, they whispered. Man, that did not work out for us at all. The ugly truth. When I was on the road to the village and nobody could see me, I stopped and screamed. A startled flock of birds took off from the trees nearby and filled the air with feathers and movement. In the whole commotion, I lost Anya from my sight. I was alone. Or so I thought. Is that good or bad? Hey, let me help you, a voice behind me said, and I jumped. A woman was looking at me with concern. What happened? Oh, it's one of the reporters. Okay. Interesting. So we did actually get some results there. Oh, let's not make any more of a scene then, I guess. Yeah, we can probably salvage this. Oh, yes, and let's balance out our rage while we're at it. That is definitely becoming too much of a problem. All things in balance. It was just too much. It was too much, I whispered. All of that. We walked slowly toward the village. We talked. I learned that she was an independent German reporter who'd come here about a month ago. Her name was Erika. "So why are you protesting the logging?" she asked after a few minutes of small talk. That is a good question. I guess personal reasons? I don't know. I came here for personal reasons, and I dropped right in the middle of some eco-guerrilla campaign. I shrugged. And for many reasons, my interests are aligned with the protesters. I looked at her. "And why are you asking?" She looked at me with renewed interest. "Do you know why they're cutting down the trees?" she asked back. "Because you do know that logging is done by a government company, the state forests?" No, I literally had no idea. I have never been to Poland. Thank goodness Maya is also an ignorant American. "I didn't know that," I admitted. Entirely truthfully. In fact, I knew very little. You know what? Yeah, that's fine. Low rage is better than high rage. I know very little about the situation, I realized. Just what others have told me. It all started with spruce bark beetles. Erika looked into her notes and started explaining the whole situation. That year, the beetles' infestation was of catastrophic proportions, and the foresters decided that the only way to stop it and save the rest of the forest was to cut down as many infested trees as fast as possible. Couldn't they just remove the dead trees? Maybe if they removed the dead trees, the infestation wouldn't spread? I tried to find a solution. They might do that, but dead trees are what make the forest unique. Erika smiled. There are 20 times more species living on a dead spruce tree than on an alive one. Yeah, I guess I could see that. I mean, I live in a swamp, so... Was it really necessary to cut them down? I asked, confused. The foresters state that this is the only way, she said. Some biologists argue that they're cutting wrong trees and doing it too late to change anything. Yeah, I mean, that would definitely not help. Though I could see how someone might use it as a cover. Is the logging even legal? I wanted to know. Opinions differ, but such massive logging in a UNESCO-listed area might be illegal, Erika answered. Did they have to intervene at all? Couldn't they just leave the Puszcza alone and let nature take its course? I asked. That's one of the options, Erika admitted. But there's a drought, and no one is sure if the forest would survive on its own. It was a complex situation, but that didn't mean that I should step back. And I felt that Erika was deliberately playing the devil's advocate. I tried to understand her point of view. I see that you're trying to show me the whole picture, and I appreciate it, I sighed. I just hoped there would be an easy answer. I'm just doing my job, Erika shrugged. I described all aspects of the situation to you, but it's up to you to decide what you want to do. It was a tough decision. I shook my head. Why did the situation always have to be so complex? At least I was sure they were cutting down the trees. And the Puszcza needed my help. A thought occurred to me. When they cut down the trees, what happens to the wood? I asked Erika. The state forests have to be financially self-sufficient. They earn money by selling forest products, including wood, she answered. That's why I think the bark beetle is not the reason, but an excuse to push more wood on the market. I concluded my case. She looked skeptical. You're not the only one feeling helpless, she sighed. So don't let the complexity of the situation stop you. Life is always complex, and yet we carry on. So what was right and what was wrong? So what should I do when I feel that something is wrong? I asked, exasperated. Do you believe that people can be evil? She asked back. That is quite a question. I don't personally believe that anyone is inherently good or bad. That's learned behavior from a variety of sources, upbringing, environmental, and even then, there's no real absolutes, I think. But yeah, people are definitely capable of doing bad things. Some people do really shitty things, I shrugged. But is it just their actions or their nature? I said nothing else. What's the matter? She asked. I admitted my helplessness. I felt so helpless when I saw all that. I took a deep breath. Then I remembered what Cornell had said. All that mystical stuff. And they said that I have some family debts to pay. I shook my head. It's a lot to take in. And there was that foul smell back there. She looked at me with a weird expression. What smell? She asked. How did she not smell it? You didn't notice? The harvesters reeked of something, like meat that's been rotting in acid, only worse. I couldn't even find the words to describe it, but the memory of the foulness still clung to the back of my throat, swimming in my sinuses. I know what you're talking about, she answered slowly, but I don't think everybody can smell it. I looked at her and raised my eyebrow, questioningly. Her eyes. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. There was sympathy in her eyes. You'll learn in your own time if you stay here long enough, she said, clearly wanting to drop the subject. No. What did she mean? What do you mean? I asked, getting irritated. I just told you. You'll learn in time, or not at all, which would frankly be better. Anyway, gotta run. As I watched her leave, I thought that whatever was my family legacy had surely manifested itself that day. I guess I'd made some progress. Progress, of sorts. I jumped right into the middle of a very tense situation, and at the very least upset the status quo. I just hoped I hadn't made things worse. I walked on in silence. Time to regroup. Anya came back soon after me. I lost sight of you, she said apologetically. I'm glad you made it back in one piece. So, how was your day? Anya asked. Oh, are we end of day already? Wow. Okay. Well, I learned a lot. Did you know that the government supported the logging even when it was illegal? I shared my dismay. Anya just nodded solemnly. Yeah, I've read about it. Why didn't you tell me? Well, you have a lot going on, she shrugged. Yeah, fair enough, I guess. We clearly have quite a bit going on right now. I met some very interesting people, I said, still excited. Yeah, they looked like a colorful bunch, Anya grinned. Maybe you can introduce me later? They sure are passionate. They argue between themselves more than they argue with the loggers, I added. I gave an interview. Did I? I sort of gave an interview, I shrugged. But I'm afraid they'll manipulate the shit out of it. An interview? But you only just got here, Anya exclaimed. Yeah, it just sort of happened, I shrugged. Right, the shock journalist or whatever he was. Yeah. Just another day in Białowieża. We sat for a while in silence. You know, there's more to see here than Białowieża, Anya said from over a travel guide. Oh, goodness. Pogozelci, Budi, Teramiski, Sherlanka. Why do you do this? There's something interesting in every village. An open-air museum, some kind of folk university, the bison. Maybe you'd like to see something more than the logging? It would be great if I could see everything, but I can't, I shrugged. I want to focus on the logging, even if I'm missing something else. And how's the search for your roots going? Anya couldn't stay silent for long. I shared what I'd learned. It seems that my ancestors lived around the forest for a long time, I said. And there are some kind of debts to be paid. Wow, Anya looked impressed. Honestly, I'm not sure what to think. But if you need something, just let me know. I nodded. I was tired. I just sat there looking through the window. The day had been full on, and I was exhausted. I didn't notice when I fell asleep. I can do anything. It's quiet now, yet I know deep down inside that something isn't right. I run. All things in balance. I'm running through the forest to the logging site. It's getting dark. The light seeps away as though there are millions of tiny punch holes in the sky through which it can escape. And then the darkness starts to pour in. I know what I will see. And I see bodies strewn across the ground, bloodied, maimed, with their limbs torn from destroyed torsos. I can see some of them are still alive, still struggling for air, still trying to live. They are all trees, fallen trees, still alive, still struggling for air. I see movement in the darkness. I see shapes moving in the darkness. They have long skeletal arms. They are wrapped in glistening black intestines. And each arm has a wide gaping mandible full of whirring blades. They snap at me blindly. I feel righteous anger burning through me like molten lava, bubbling from the ground, through my feet, up my legs, through my chest to my head. I point at the monsters. My friends watch, and I bask in their rage. I howl the sentence. I howl out the death sentence, and we run toward the monstrous shapes. We bite off heads and tear off arms. We are an executioner's axe. Unflinching. Then, I wake up. Did we just kill a bunch of people? Because that is not... I gasped and bolted upright. I was alone. The sun was setting, and in the deep red light, the room looked like it was bathed in blood. My pillow was on the ground, and the duvet was torn. Tiny feathers were spilling through the tear. What happened? Interesting, very interesting. And yeah, we are at end of day and into a new one. We are past the half-hour mark. So, I mean, I guess I should probably call it here. Like I said last time, chapter breaks are a good stopping point. Even if it does make for slightly shorter episodes, but, I'm sure we'll have some longer ones in there too. But yeah, I'm very intrigued by what we're seeing so far. I mean, it is somewhat predictable. We went into this knowing that there were werewolves involved and that we're almost certainly one of them. But it is intriguing seeing all this play out, and it is helping me recall a lot of the old details of the werewolf setting as I'm playing it. Like I said earlier, I'm fairly certain a number of the people we've met today were also werewolves. I mean, Erica, obviously. I'd say Kim, Olga, Lisa, Cornell. Who were the other two? There were, Pat, with the tablet, and then Daniel. Daniel, who relieved himself on one of the harvesters. It's a very disparate group, but I mean, that's a classic tabletop party sort of composition, you know? A bunch of esoteric characters thrust together by circumstances, but constantly clashing as they each try to assert some control over what's going on. And then there's us, the new guy, the proverbial runt of the litter. Blundering through the middle of it, kicking over the pieces, and just trying to figure out what in the world is going on. It is very apt. Anyway, yeah, we will hit the pause button for now, but we are definitely picking up here next time as we push on into Chapter 3. And right after our dream about possibly killing a bunch of people at the logging site. I'm sure that's fine. See you then. Oh, and remember, although I do love playing Werewolf, Heart of the Forest, you can find out more about the game by visiting the official website, the official social media feeds, or the official store pages. And if you'd like to help support the channel, feel free to push the buttons that do the things, or maybe even check out the Patreon. Links are in the description.